Hello, welcome to the AppleInsider podcast. I'm William Gallagher. Our sponsors this week are Private Internet Access, Clean My Mac by MacBook, and Surfshark. And at this very moment, as I join you, I have my finger poised over the button to buy a new M5 iPad Pro and all the trimmings. But before I press it, before I spend a lot of cash there, I feel I need to check in with an iPad expert. Unfortunately, I've got one right here. Wes Hilliard, tell me, should I push the button or not?
I mean, you're upgrading from an M1. This would be a pretty substantial upgrade, especially for the display technology. I'd say go for it. I mean, if you've got the money, this is it. This is the time to buy.
Right, you had to bring in money. There. Okay, so if I go to my accountant and say M5 minus M1 is 4 things better, do you think she'll buy it?
It's actually like 50 things better. There's a display change. There is a new design change. I think the accountant would be for it. They'd be like, just take out that second mortgage and get that iPad.
All right. Okay. Again, I didn't enjoy the second mortgage part, but all right. Before I ask you a really key question, which I think is the most crucial one about this, let me just say, in this week's Apple Insider, I was going to say Apple Insider Plus. Are we still allowed to say Plus after Apple TV? Anyway,
so it's Apple Insider Plus, on Apple Insider in Apple Insider.
Yes, it is. All of those. Wes and I will be talking in all of that about what makes a good hardware update. What a surprise that we should talk about this right now when there's been 3 of them in a row. But Wes, this was your idea. So am I right? Is it because of all the new releases?
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of discussion, and I like picking our topics based on what the internet is talking about in general. I feel like, but we kind of make the topics a little bit more evergreen, but we will be focused on these releases in particular as well. We'll get into it in the show. We got some new products, but what really should these exist, right? Like, you'll always see the people say Apple shouldn't even bother unless they add 3 new things. If it's just a chip, don't even release it, right? I don't agree with that, obviously, but does it mean they're good? Is it worthwhile? Who should be buying these products? We've had similar topics in the past. Again, we're falling into that chasm of like treading similar grounds, but I think in this particular valence, it's more about what does it actually mean to have a better processor? What does it actually mean to increase the visible resolution of a display? Like, does it matter for the end user? And is Apple doing enough? Should they be adding more to these products, right? Like, so we'll talk about all of that and more in the Apple Insider Plus.
Apple Insider Plus, if you don't happen to know, is the ad-free and extended version of the show, which you can get by subscribing either via Patreon or Apple Podcast subscriptions. Details in the show notes, as always, and of course, it would be great to have you with us. But we have a lot to talk about this time, so let's dive into where's the important details. This is deal breaker for me. What advice do you have for me about the colour of iPad Pro?
It's the same. They space gray and silver. I mean, the white keyboard looks nice. They clearly don't really get too dirty, and you can clean them pretty easily from what I've seen of users in the wild. I prefer black, so I have the space gray and the black keyboard, and I'm good to go there. I mean, I'm not really sure what aesthetic you're going for. Death Star workstation, ultra-wide display. Maybe you get the black keyboard and gray iPad. Yeah,
black's very slimming. So, I'm surprised that there's the Magic Keyboard stuff. Okay, new iPad Pro comes out. They bring out a new Magic Keyboard, and as far as I can see, it's functionally exactly the same as the other one, just different name. But they did also change. They brought out a white version for this, and they've now introduced a black version. I think I'm getting this the right way around for the iPad Air, which previously only had
Yes.
Why isn't there a silver one to go with the silver color iPads?
Well, white is silver, William. Silver is white. All right,
that sounds quite deep and profound, but okay. I think that's a coded way of saying, what can you do? It's just the color. And there's a reasonable point there because there are actually differences between this version and the last. Obviously, the big thing is M5. And I was very tickled by how often Apple is now doing with like Homer Simpson, but with 5 M's instead of 4. Before 3 things. M5 is clearly the key thing, but there are others. I honestly have never before thought about buying an iPad Pro with a cellular modem. I've always just tethered. But there is the Apple C1X, isn't it, in the new one? And I presume, as far as a user like me is concerned, there's no functional difference, or is it in some way good?
Apple claims better cellular connectivity, but also it's likely just because the C1X is probably technically a better modem than they were probably using a cheaper, lesser modem for the iPads before. I don't have any insight on this. I couldn't tell you which modem they were using from Qualcomm, but Apple hasn't been claiming speed increases when discussing iPhones using the C modems. And then suddenly they're like 50% faster data speeds or something like that when they refer to 5G. Obviously, this does not have the 5 gigahertz spectrum. It's the sub 6G. I love talking about 5G. So many dumb terms they could have made better. But it's seemingly better cellular versus older iPads is kind of the concept here. I don't think anyone's going to notice any difference. No one's noticed any difference in the iPhones. Maybe the iPad's a bit better. But overall, cool. Vertical integration of Apple hardware. Better, more efficient cellular, better battery life. It's a win-win.
Of course, being outside the US, I would never have the option of Wave.
I mean, in the US, you have to be at a stadium. Yeah. Like you'd have to go to a football stadium where they play NFL grade football, and there you go. Maybe stand in the center of a major metropolitan area and aim your iPad at a satellite dish and you might get it. It's just not here either. People pretend like it is. It really isn't. It's so unnecessary.
Okay, thank you for rephrasing it that way, although leaping to the assumption that I'm not the sort of person who goes to not football stadiums, sports stadiums, just because I don't follow any sports whatsoever. Like I said, I genuinely have the button. Well, there you go. Hot dogs with green or red mustard. I remember that from films about it. So right in front of me now, okay, there is the screen with the button, and I haven't selected the modem version, the cellular version. But in the last week, while I've been looking around expecting this to come out, I learned something that, forgive me if this is incredibly well known, but it was brand new to me. If you have the cellular version of an iPad, as it was before the Apple modem, you also got GPS in it. And in order for GPS to work, you didn't have to have the cellular connection. Just GPS was part of the modem processor, so you could use it. And I really quite fancy being able to do Apple Map stuff on my iPad on a ship somewhere. I just don't know that it's worth a couple of £100 more, and I don't know whether Apple's C1X modem includes GPS. Well, is this all well known?
No, but also GPS is worthless without internet unless you have downloaded your maps, because you need internet to get the maps. They can find your coordinates using a GPS system. That's why if you ever use Apple Maps offline, as it's called, that means you don't have a cellular internet connection offline. Your GPS still works. It theoretically works anywhere except in caves. So you can download Apple Maps locally to your iPhone and go to a dead zone in the middle of nowhere and still have your little arrow on the road where you're supposed to be approximately. I think internet helps coordinate this a little bit better, but it's getting your GPS coordinates, and then those coordinates are being fed into the offline map, and it's kind of guessing, and it's a pretty good guess, and it moves you at the same clip that you're moving, just like as if you had internet connection. But those maps don't exist unless you have the internet. You're not downloading Apple Maps through a GPS receiver. So unless you went ahead and downloaded, I wonder, can you do that? Can you download all of just the internet? Just download the whole map of the globe?
Well,
someone needs to try that and tell me if it works.
When Apple first allowed downloadable maps, many, many years ago, and it was on an iPhone, I remember now I did test it, and I was really impressed with how much mapping data came down. Wherever it was I was testing, I thought I'd finished and I moved off somewhere else, and the map was still with me for a very long way. So, yeah, there's got to be Cap, you can't just say Australia, please. Or maybe you can. But you've actually talked me out of this. You've saved me some money there because I knew this existed, I'd forgotten it existed, and I've never once remembered to download the maps since I did that test. Okay, thank you. I might buy an Apple Pencil Pro now with the money instead.
Well, I was going to say, William, I'm going to make you spend money because remember, if you have a Magic Keyboard now, it will not work with the new iPad. So you're going to have to spend that $350.
Yeah, I know. I just took a long weekend, a writing retreat in Paris, and I brought with me only the iPad, okay, and it was with the Magic Keyboard, but I was intending to use that as just a way to prop up the iPad. I brought a Logitech keyboard with me, an external one, which is bigger, feels great, and I did get to use it a couple of times, but in the hotel where I was working, the desk was so narrow, I had to end up using the Magic Keyboard for most of it. And that actually made me think, I don't know, do I need the Magic Keyboard? Probably yes. I mean, needs a strong word, but okay, I'll add it to the basket and I'll think about it. Okay, so I'm now not going to press the button right this moment. I'll possibly check my bank accounts for this. Is starting to get personal. I don't believe. No, there is one more update, isn't it? To iPad Pro. Am I right that it has Wi-Fi 7?
Yes, it gains Wi-Fi 7 because it has Apple's N1 networking chip.
Right. Do I care about either of those things?
Wi-Fi 7 is good, but most people don't have it. If you don't have the router that supports it, then, I mean, what's the point? And you're not going to be on any network other than your home network that supports Wi-Fi 7. I'm pretty sure Cafe Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi 3 or something. So,
right. Yes.
What was it? 802.11G. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers and letters now. Yeah, Wi-Fi 7's fine. Okay, it has specific uses. It's great for home networking. It's great. The things that come with Wi-Fi 7, like your router probably is aware of the smart home at this point. Wi-Fi 6 kind of had that. 6E improved on that, but 7 really has Matter support built in and Thread and all of that stuff. Like, you're really getting a lot more with Wi-Fi 7. But on the iPad end of things, it's just a faster connection. Maybe better smart switching between nodes if you have a mesh network. If you're streaming games from a PC or console, it's going to be better for that. And I know you do that all the time, William. So not a huge increase there. The biggest step up is the M5 processor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for you, it's the display probably. My goodness, you're obviously not getting nano texture, I assume.
No, I've never seen the benefit of it. I mean, I understand intellectually, but when I've looked at it in Apple stores, with their bright lights, I feel I should recognize it more. But the cost versus what I see as a benefit, plus I'm in Britain, so how often do we get bright sunlight? I'm not even looking at that one. Last thing about the iPad Pro, and I kind of want you just to confirm that I'm not wrong here. I read a headline somewhere right after the launch saying that Apple had launched the thinnest ever iPad, that it was thinner than the one before. But maybe this is a metric imperial thing. I'm trying to read Apple's things. It looks like it's exactly the same chassis on the iPad Pro. Do you know if that's right?
Yeah, nothing changed. It is the thinnest iPad because this generation of iPad is the same as the last generation of iPad, which was also the thinnest iPad. It's just not thinner than the M4. Nothing changed here. Apple is very strict in keeping everything the same. I don't think they would just start a new manufacturing process for a 1/4 millimeter or something.
No. Plus, if they did, I think they would shout about it a bit more. So yes. Somebody just got a bit excited, that's all. And I can understand that. Okay. I said that right at the top that I wanted to talk to you about the iPad, and it was frankly, yet again, personal interest. But you are also the man to talk about Apple Vision Pro because, you're wearing one most of the time. You're obviously a fan of it as well. And we've come to a crunch point, the very first update to the Apple Vision Pro, and it is, of course, like the rest of the devices this week, it's added the M5 processor, or the M4. What was it on it before? Was it M2 before?
M2.
Now it's M5. I can tell you if it helps. For some reason, and truly who knows why, Apple Vision Pro is cheaper in the UK than it used to be. You can get it for about £3,200 instead of £3,500. I believe it's exactly the same as it was in the States, and you can't trade in. Are you thinking of getting Apple Vision Pro M5 and maybe passing your old one on to your fiance / depending when you listen to this, wife?
So I am getting the M5 Apple Vision Pro. I am not getting the iPad Pro update.
Okay.
And I'm not buying any Macs. I don't need a Mac. But I will put out briefly the iPad Pro decision is mostly just this. So for those who keep track, I had the M1 and then I had the M4, right? I skipped M2 and M3, or I don't even think there was an M3. But yes, I held out, thankfully, because, we'll talk about this in the Apple Insider Plus segment, but basically the way I make decisions is what does it get me that changes something about what I do, right? Nothing changed hardware-wise in the iPad Pro. The display is the same. It's the same thickness. It has the same ports. The only thing we didn't mention, I'll mention here, is it gains the ability to do variable refresh rate at 120 frames on external displays, which may indicate we're getting that with a studio display in the near future, which, cool. I can live without that. I would like to have it, but I don't need to buy a whole iPad just for that. When the studio display update comes out, I'll probably buy one of those, live with my current iPad until the M6 version comes out in 2027, and then update, and then I'll get all the cool things at the same time. Great. But iPad only doing chip changes, which they did 3 chip changes, right? They got the N1, C1X, and M5. I'm working for my iPad, but I'm not playing Death Stranding on my iPad, right? I'm not doing a lot of AI stuff yet. And maybe next year Apple introduces all this cool AI stuff and I'm like, man, I really need that 3x AI processing power with the GPU architecture on my iPad Pro. I don't really feel that way. The gains are there, right? They say 1.5x performance in some areas. That means 50%, right? That it's a different way of saying 50%.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's fine. It's a chip. We're going to talk about why I think it's still a good upgrade, but it's not for me. I can survive on the M4. They didn't even do the thing they usually do and add a new Apple Pencil feature, right? There is nothing that I do with my iPad that will change by me buying an M5 iPad Pro, except my Minecraft drawing distance might get a little further, which I would appreciate, but I don't need to spend $2,000 for that.
Right. Well, sorry, just to say, I'm now hovering over the cancel button. It said, this is a roller coaster of an episode. But yes, Apple Vision Pro. I really didn't expect that you would update because, as far as I could see, it is just M5. But
well, M1 to M5 for you, William, is still worth it. So you should hover over that buy button. But for me, Apple Vision Pro, M2 to M5. Let's list the things that we get. I think it's easy to forget because we're kind of reducing it down to literally just a number, 2 versus 5. Oh, that doesn't sound like that much. The M2 to M3 introduced 2 very important graphical things to the M series architecture that would have been. I wish Apple had waited for M3 to do Apple Vision Pro because they could have. They could have demoed it with a fake M2 or something and then released it with M3 because M3 released in the intermediary between announcing it and releasing it in February. Anyway, M3 gained. Yeah. So M3 gained hardware accelerated ray tracing and mesh mapping, which is incredible and very important for games. Right, it's what allows us to play Resident Evil and Death Stranding and these other AAA titles on an iPad and iPhone. Control, a very nice looking video game that was, it's been out for a while. This is what Apple's been doing lately. I think they're targeting so many older games like 2021 titles because they're asking developers to port them to Metal, which is something developers really don't want to do, but I'm sure Apple is giving them a very nice incentive to do so. But Control is coming to the Apple Vision Pro as a result. And I'm sure these other games that I just mentioned, like Resident Evil, will also work on the Vision Pro.
Sorry, you hear me exclaim there because I was hearing you saying Control with a lowercase c and I wasn't following it, but Control is actually the name of a game. isn't it?
Yes.
Is it? Right.
Yes. Yes. And it has a lot of like particle effects and ray tracing. It's a very pretty physics engine. Like it's a very nice game, and I think it'll run really well. I hope they maybe tweak some of the interface a bit to play with the Vision Pro-esque-ness of it, but it might just be a 2D screen. I don't know. What's fun though, so that's a big jump on its own, but we're going from M2 to M5. So that's wildly better CPU, wildly better GPU. The graphics processors also have the new AI systems on board. Way better neural engine on top of, so like just everything is increased by several fold. Like you think about the increase between M2 and M3, M3 and M4, 3 generations of Apple Silicon is a night and day comparison. And so it is a huge processor update for Apple Vision Pro. It means a lot for games. Graphical intense applications don't really exist so much on Apple Vision Pro. People aren't necessarily rendering a video, or they might be rendering objects in 3D, but again, I don't know of that many apps that take advantage of it, but definitely gaming my review of Vision OS 26 and how it introduced PSVR 2 controllers. My number one thing was this operating system is a preview of what Apple expects the next generation of Apple Vision Pro can do. And I was right. Like the M5 makes all of this actually make sense. Because you don't need PSVR 2 controllers for the games that we have today, but the games that are coming are going to be beautiful and fun. And I'm very excited about that. But beyond gaming, because there is actually more here, you're right. M5 is it. We have the same modem, the same Wi-Fi 6, right? People are going to be upset about that. We have the R1 processor for the pass-through processing of all the cameras and all those operations and gesture control.
Oh, actually, let me just stop you there, because you reminded me. I remember all the many rumours and leaks and things said that there was going to be an R2 processor, and I realised I don't know whether that was just leakers can add a number, or whether there is evidence of an R2 processor actually existing.
Yeah, the rumor actually said it wouldn't come in this model, that it would be in the next model, which is now obviously accurate. I mean, we're going to get another R chip eventually. That's going to be better at what this does. But yes, Apple hot swapped the M5. We have the same 16 gigs of RAM. We have the same 1 or 2 terabyte storage configurations at the high end. Same $34.99 price point, but we got an M5. But what does that actually mean to users? It actually means quite a lot. Turns out Apple was they had a little bit of a wild card that we just weren't even aware of as users. They came out, I don't know if you remember this, but they announced the Vision Pro could get up to I think it released maybe with variable between 60 and 90. People found that they could push the refresh rate up to about 97, 98 hertz.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But now it can do 120 hertz, right? Which is the sweet spot for making sure people don't get motion sick during VR. Then there's...
I think of that. Because obviously I don't use it a fraction as much as you, but I did do the demo, and I couldn't have told you what the refresh rate was. It all looked like perfection to me, the vision through it, but I don't get motion sickness, so I didn't appreciate that was a benefit. Yeah,
this is what's so exciting about this is, 120 hertz is great for games, and it's obviously a variable refresh rate, but so it's not going to be running at 120 when you're reading an article. The environment will always run at 120 theoretically, or at least ramp up to it. Again, I think this is variable between 90 and 120 is where we're going to live. But what it's going to allow is when you turn your head, all of the windows aren't going to shear and blur so much. They're going to feel more like physical objects in your space because the refresh rate is able to keep up with your head turn.
Oh, right.
And so that's going to be interesting.
Now. That shearing.
No, I'm exaggerating slightly. Like, it's more like when you turn your head and you're rendering new objects, it's just, clear that it's not real time, right? You're getting everything, like the pass-through portion that is your real space doesn't really have any issues. It's the software itself overlaid on it. I don't know if it's because they're always rendering pass-through as high as it can go, and the software is what's getting kind of variable, but you can just tell, I guess, sometimes, depending on how much load there is on the processors and everything, that it's not quite catching up with your head turn, and then once you stop turning, it's there. I mean, it's all an instant. It's a quality of life thing, right? Like, if every time you turned your head, your TV got blurry, that would get annoying, right?
Yeah. No, okay, I get that.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I have a feeling, I don't know yet, I don't have it. I won't have it until next Friday, actually, because I'll be on my honeymoon when it arrives. But the thing here is, theoretically, so I haven't even got to the best part yet, but we're getting there. Theoretically, this will be a huge quality of life improvement just in using the device. Looking around, seeing the software, seeing the pass-through, all should be better, right? Because the refresh rate, you should feel closer to real life as far as, yes, you have a giant thing on your head, but what you're seeing should feel more present and physical in your space anyway. But that brings me to my last point. Again, Apple not telling us they were doing this, but it turns out they were doing display scaling on the original Apple Vision Pro, and we did not even know it.
I don't even know what that means. Well, I mean, I can work out from the words, but what does it mean?
On a Mac, when you have display scaling, what's happening, right? If you have a 5K display, if you have a 4K display on a 32-inch screen, it's not rendering correctly, right? It has to scale the UI in order to fit the space.
Oh, right.
Because it's not a native resolution.
Yeah.
It seems that Apple Vision Pro was not running at a native resolution previously, William.
Right.
What Apple was doing was actually the processor. It's having to do so much 4K per eye on an M2 on top of rendering pass-through and all of these graphical applications that have to stay running in the background at all times. Yeah, it was taxing to this M2 processor. And this is early Apple Silicon, right? It has like there's so many gains that have happened, right? The unified memory architecture is incredibly different from M2 to M5. And it's way, way, way faster, right? The ability for the processor and the GPUs to call directly to from RAM to memory, it's much, much quicker now. Everything's much faster. It's crazy talk, right? So we're gaining a lot of stuff here. And one of the things Apple gave us with M5 is we're going to get the full resolution of the displays. We're going to get native resolution of each eye, no longer scaled, so that it's a 10% resolution increase, which is not nothing. That is, for 4K per eye, 10% is a lot of pixels.
Yeah, I'm startled by that, actually. Okay. I honestly thought worthless upgrade, just a new processor, which is harsh of me, I understand, but that's something where I can get an actual definite benefit. I'm very conscious of the fact that I suppose all of us do. We come to something by what would we use things for, and in your case with the games and this, I can see, and also just how much you wear it, I can see how the improvements are. I would use an Apple Vision Pro to watch TV and films. I'd be there with slow horses in my head, and I was hearing the argument that for streaming, for watching anything like that, there's absolutely no difference because a 50-minute episode takes 50 minutes. You're not going to get it faster. Would you even want it? But if it is television going to be, is Apple TV going to be higher resolution now?
So
on the headset?
This is the question, and I'm going to have to test it. Theoretically, no, because what you were getting before was still higher than 3820 by 2160. The second number, right? That was more like 3000, right? Whereas the max resolution of the Apple Vision Pro, I think, is more like 3300. It is a 10% increase, right? So like 3000 to 3300. But 3000 is still bigger than 2160. So anything that said it was 4K and even 4K 3D should have been viewed at full resolution. So your TV shows and stuff won't be better in that respect. But so like media won't change, but gaming will have access to more resolution. Text will be much sharper. Things like Safari, reading folder names, opening your Mac Virtual Display, William, will be a truly much better experience. Apple even called that out specifically, that Mac Virtual Display is a much better experience with the M5. So that'll be interesting. So all around, a 10% resolution increase and 120 hertz refresh should mean that the virtual world that you are in feels a little bit more natural, feels a little bit more crisp and clear, and the objects and things around you have just a little bit more physicality to them, I guess. And that is what I'm most excited to try out. Obviously, and Mike and I were talking about this earlier, it's not a reason to just go out and buy a new Vision Pro. If you have the original model, especially since there's no trade-in, I wouldn't advise jumping on the M5, even though I just showered it with praise.
Yes.
This is a tough call, right? It's a $3,500 plus computer. If you get a terabyte of storage, you're in the $4,000 range. So the question is, do you upgrade? Well, we'll talk about the Knitband and then wrap up this section, but you're not. It depends on what you're doing. And again, you don't buy for the future. I would not buy the Apple Vision Pro M5 model hoping that Beat Saber is coming to it, right? Because I don't think it ever will, sadly. I don't think Minecraft is going to come to it, and I really want to play Minecraft on my Vision Pro, guys. Just do it. But the thing is the quality improvements that you get are worth it. You just have to have the money. You have to have you have to really want it. If you have a regular Vision Pro, it's still going to run Vision OS. It's going to have all the same apps and games, and you're probably not going to notice that much of a difference keeping the old hardware, right? Because you're not going to know what the new hardware runs like. But if you go get the new hardware and see the difference, you'll probably be like, darn, I can't go back now. It's just one of those situations, right? There is a tangible difference. Games are going to be different. I guarantee you there will be games that release on the new Vision Pro that will not run on the old one. Like, we're going to start running into that kind of stuff. Maybe some software limitations in certain applications. But depending on how you use it, it's probably it's a very personal decision, I think, at this point.
This episode is brought to you by Private Internet Access, the VPN service. VPNs, virtual private networks, and what meant I could just work in a Paris cafe without having to worry whether that free Wi-Fi network was really theirs, or instead was a hotspot run by the slightly suspicious-looking man at the next table. Or usually I'm in England, and actually recently our government here mandated age verification checks for certain types of sites, shall we say. But the thing is, when it started, at least for the first few weeks, there was something seriously wrong, because I was having trouble logging on to just regular news sites. In fact, I started to wonder whether those sites were using this law change as an excuse to harvest some personal data. But can't say I wondered long. I just turned on my VPN. The sites believed I was in the US and I could read the news like normal. A VPN protects my data, and a very important part of that is protecting my location. Private Internet Access operates 50 of its own VPN servers across 50 states, and being able to appear to be in a different state or a different country can be essential. I mean, forget the UK's age verification stuff. For years and years, I have routinely been outside the UK and quite urgently needed to do some banking, and my bank would not allow me access because I was overseas. I mean, okay, score one for personal security and banking, but still, without a VPN, I could have been in such a dire situation. And instead, I just use private internet access, make my connection appear to be in the UK or the US, whatever I need, and do the work I need to do. Private internet access gives you this across 50 US states, 91 countries, and private internet access also covers your whole household, regardless of how many devices you and your family have. Go to piavpn.com vpn.com/AppleInsider. That's PIA for private internet access, vpn.com/AppleInsider to get 83% off private internet access with 4 months free. And thank you to Private Internet Access for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. This episode is brought to you by Clean My Mac by MacBook. I'm talking to you now from the Mac studio in my office, and this week the Apple Insider podcast is being recorded on my MacBook Pro, with both machines having Clean My Mac on them all the time. That's actually partly because I don't have enough storage really on either Mac, and Clean My Mac, it helps me get rid of all that accumulated junk that I no longer need. It can also give me a visual overview of just what is taking up all the space on the Mac. And in the spirit of keeping me working without problems and delays, Clean My Mac also alerts me when, say, apps have frozen, or if something is making my MacBook Pro overheat. And it also works on iCloud and OneDrive and Google Drive. Clean My Mac scans whichever of those cloud storage services you use, and it does exactly the same thing of looking for large, unused, space-wasting files. It finds them, and then it gives you control over what to do with them. So you can tell Clean My Mac to just delete the files. Of course you can. But there's also that you can decide maybe you don't want them taking up cloud space, but you do want them left on your internal Mac storage. Every time I run Clean My Mac, I do it because of this, because I'm short of space. And every time I do it, I get back gigabytes of storage. It's just now that happens on both my Macs and in my iCloud. It does this for me, and it can do it for you too. Get tidy today. Try 7 days free and use my code AppleInsider20. That's AppleInsider20 for 20% off at CLNMY. So Clean My, CLNMY.com/AppleInsider podcast. So that's CLNMY.com/AppleInsider podcast. And thanks to Clean My Mac by MacPaw for supporting the Apple Insider podcast and clearing up my Macs all the time. There's one thing you just dropped in briefly there, mention of, I keep the name wrong, the dual knit band. There was some interesting detective work about this, because as a non-user, when I look at it, what I see is, I know it's supposed to be more comfortable, but what I see is a different shape, as well as a band that just goes around the back of your head. There's a band over the top of your head as well. And during the very first launch, the first reveal of the Apple Vision Pro, they had countless people wearing it in different exciting situations, and one of them, for 2 shots, had a band that had something over the top, and it looked briefly like it was what has now come out. I don't know why Apple will have decided against that. It looked like they just changed their mind and just forgot to reshoot that one bit. Does that thing over the top of your head sound like it's going to make a massive difference?
A couple of things here. The band we saw originally, I'm willing to bet is not the one we have today. I'd have to go back and see that image.
No,
but I'm fairly certain
it was
a solo strap across the back, the solo knit band, and then it had more of a thin overhead strap that never ships.
Yes.
So it was basically a combination of the dual band that we had in the original model and the solo band across the back. But what we have this time is actually not. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's just 2 solo knit straps." It's not actually. There's more to it.
There's a clue in the name, dual, 2 of them. I fell for that as well, but you're saying there's more. Sorry, yeah,
there's more. Yeah. So the knit band that we had originally, theoretically, that is just stitching, goes across the top of your head, and then the second band goes across the back of your head. But this isn't just stitching. It has tungsten inserts along the lining to help counterweight the Vision Pro.
Oh, okay. Right. Still puts more weight on your head. Yeah.
A little bit. And I think that's where, Mike was discussing this, but he says that according to Apple specs, the Vision Pro is slightly heavier with M5, but I think it's because of the dual strap with the tungsten. It's not a lot of weight. They're not adding a pound, right? They're adding a few ounces. We're talking negligible in the human hand. You could probably not even tell that they're there unless you squeeze it, because the fabric, you'd probably feel what's inside of it. But when it's on your head, those imperceptible amounts of weight mean everything to your neck muscles. And this is something that a medical company that makes medical adapters for sleep apnea machines and stuff figured out. They made a Apple Vision Pro head strap with weights you could attach to it using Velcro, and I tested it, and I talked about it here before. MedRes, it was fine. My only issue is I hate things going across my head like that. But the counterweights worked, and it made sense. And when it was on my head, the total weight and volume of what I was wearing was higher, but it was more comfortable because the weight on my head was being counterbalanced. So I think Apple saw this and figured it out, and they obviously have a lot of scientists on their end figuring this out. But ultimately, it leads to a better, more comfortable experience. But to answer your question, is this going to be better? I don't know. I really, really like the Solo Band. I really hate it when things are going across the top of my head. But everything I've tested so far that puts something across the top of my head has taken an approach that I hate. So I don't really like baseball caps these days. I used to wear them when I was younger, but as I got older, for whatever reason, maybe my head's too big, I don't know. But the little nub thing rubbing the top of my head just drove me insane, made me almost feel like I had a headache. So I stopped wearing caps for a long time ago. And then a lot of these straps that I would wear across the top of my head kind of put a pressure point up there because there were these thin little straps, just like Apple's dual band. That's why I don't like it. That would go across the top of my head, and I really didn't like the way it felt. The ResMed strap too. It's a thin little strap. I tested another one I forget the name of recently that was more like Apple Vision Pro's giant pads, but the way the head pad rested, I felt like I was inside of a football helmet. There was too many pads, too many places. It was just all-encompassing. I felt like I was suffocating. So just again, this whatever sensitivity I have here was just way too pronounced. But I think maybe Apple might have hit the sweet spot of it's a very wide surface area, a very soft surface area, and it's not actually cinching, right? All of these other straps cinched in a way. They were Velcro straps. This one's expanding to fit my head. So I'm very interested to see how this fits and if the counterweights make a difference. I think Apple might have landed somewhere really interesting with this one.
An absolutely crucial thing that I must tell you now is that weirdly, I bought my first ever cap about 2 weeks ago in Shakespeare and Company bookstore in Paris. They had on the shelves there as well as obviously books. They had a cap that said, reliable narrator. And I looked at that and I thought, yeah, if they had unreliable, they do. I bought an unreliable narrator headset and I've worn it at least once since. We do have another big device to come out, the MacBook Pro, but actually, very specifically because you talked about the headset there, we should say, the strap, the dual knit band is available to existing Apple Vision Pro users. It's $99, I think. But there are other accessories that are available, presumably for both. And they're things, well, one I don't understand because it's to do with games, and the other one I just never expected. The non-expected one's the Logitech Muse, which is like the Logitech Crayon, the kind of Apple Pencil equivalent, but for waving about in the air like a wand. Is that something that would actually be, a big thing for Apple Vision Pro users?
Okay, this is an amazing accessory. It's really interesting that it works at all. It reminds me of 3D printer pens. I don't know if you've seen those where they have the filament in the pen head and you can kind of draw in midair and create little objects. Terribly, usually. This is... All right, this is not an original thing. I remember... let's go back to about 2000... I want to say 10 or 11. I don't remember when this system came out, but the original PlayStation Move, M-O-V-E, where you had these wands with balls on top that a camera would track the lights. So you had these motion wands. One of the applications on the PlayStation was 3D sculpting using these wands. And it would show you on the TV screen standing behind a sculpting object, and you could move the wands around to take off pieces of block to create objects. And artists somehow use this to make amazing 3D models inside of this application. Is incredible, right? And that was my first introduction to something like that. So I look at this pen and I'm like, yeah, there are artists out there who can wave their hands in non-physical space and mold an object into something amazing. I have a feeling this is going to be really good for 3D modeling, where imagine instead of 3D modeling an object on your PC with a keyboard and mouse very abstractly, imagine placing a block in the middle of a empty room and being able to walk around that block in 360 degrees, and your chisel is this little pen. Right? That. Yeah. And now, of course, when you reach out and touch, you're not going to run into a wall and actually hit a block. But what's interesting is it vibrates. It has feedback. So instead of just using your finger to carve this block, when you touch the edge of something, it'll give you feedback to let you know that you're there. And if you you can develop a muscle memory that where you get good enough, it'll almost be like hitting a wall. And I'm very excited to see how people use this stuff, but I have a feeling that this is very obviously commercially based. This is heading towards developers and 3D modelers and stuff like that, but this is a very excellent accessory. And this and the PSVR 2 controllers that we'll discuss are evidence that Apple is listening and realizes that in order to actually use Apple Vision Pro to its fullest extent, physicality is important, right? Because when they first announced this device, they pretended like all you needed was your eyes and fingers, which is true to an extent. But once you actually need to sit down and do something, you need a mouse, you need a keyboard, you need a controller, you need this pen. And I'm glad that Apple didn't push back against that like they did with Apple TV or other devices that they've previously fought against. So, yeah, I think this is an interesting thing. I can do nothing with it except maybe make a smiley face, but I'm glad it's out there.
You did actually just slightly steal my thunder there, because I was ready to trot out the words PlayStation VR 2, Sense Controller, and Charging Station. I nearly forgot it wrong. I don't know what a Sense Controller is, but I can work out most of the rest of the words. Is this more likely to be something you would buy?
Sense is the brand name for Sony's controller line for the PlayStation 5. So you have a DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5. And the word dual, William, comes from the original DualShock controller for the PlayStation. And that was called a DualShock controller because it had two vibrating engines that would vibrate as you play a video game. An innovation that has
we all knew that.
Its naming scheme.
Yeah. Okay.
Its naming scheme has survived 5 generations of consoles, so now that we have DualSense controllers. Anyway.
Right, actually, sorry, you've mentioned this before, I remember now. Yes, okay. So it sounds like a good thing. I love that it's continuing. Is it, I don't think, the price is like $250 or something, and it's not available till sometime in November. Does that help you with your budgeting?
Well, here's what's great, is I actually bought the PlayStation VR 2 when it was released, knowing Apple Vision Pro was coming at some point. I think PSVR 2 actually came out before Apple announced Apple Vision Pro, but we knew that they were going to announce a VR headset, and I was just like, you know what? I want to play Beat Saber so badly that I want to buy this thing. Because my dog had chewed through my original PlayStation VR headset wire, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to get it. So I have actually had PSVR 2 this whole time, from launch day, with the 2 Sense controllers that it comes with. And a recent PlayStation update actually lets you pair it to multiple things. So I can pair my Sense controllers to my PS5 and then hit a button combination, and it automatically swaps to my Vision Pro now. So I already have a set. I do not need to buy a set. And I don't need to buy a second set, so I don't have to keep swapping them. I can just do a button combination. I'm glad Sony did this before releasing it. Because they could very easily say, "Oh, I'll just buy 4." But yes, a pack of 2 with charging station, $250, which is very funny because I think the original PSVR 2 might have been $400. So they're saying that more than half of the price of the headset was the controllers, which I don't believe. It's interesting. I'm glad they exist. I'm glad Apple is selling them separately. Obviously, don't go buy a PSVR 2 just to get the controllers unless you can find them on eBay for $5, which you probably can because it's a failed device. Sony kind of gave up on it. But yeah, this is great. This is excellent. I'm glad Sony gets to empty their warehouses full of garbage and make them actually useful. And I'm glad that Apple gets to give us physical vibrating controllers. But it's not just that. These controllers have a lot of input options, and I've seen Apple actually named like 5 different games and applications that use these controllers that are already on the App Store, even though you can't buy them in the Apple Store yet. And I'm very eager to try all this out because I haven't had a chance yet, but there's like a ping pong game. There's a game where portals open in your walls and zombies come out and you have to shoot them with a gun, and the controller is a trigger and it will vibrate when you shoot, right? So you're getting haptic feedback. It's also good.
Okay, I got to say, very mixed signals here. It's rubbish, but it's good. It's great. Being right by one. You've already got one. But
PSVR 2 is an amazing headset. Way over-engineered. Never made its money back because you needed a $500 PlayStation to play this $500 VR accessory that sold $60 games. Whereas if you bought a Meta Quest for $300, you could just buy a $60 game and you were at the ballpark, right? It's just it was just a bad place in the market.
This episode is brought to you by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network, and well, it's essential, really. VPNs protect your data and they protect your privacy because every time you use the internet in any way, your data is being sent out over multiple servers, potentially in multiple countries. You never know where those are, you never know how many there are, and of course, you cannot ever know whether one or more have been compromised. You cannot know whether one of those servers is trying to steal your data. But what you can know is that they have no chance of succeeding, because with Surfshark, your data is encrypted all the way from your device onwards. The best way to think of it is like a tunnel that your data goes through that no one else can see inside. Now, there are countless very serious uses for VPN. Just for a couple of examples, I could relax the other weekend in France because my VPN, it gave me safe access to my bank in the UK. I could also stop worrying about which Wi-Fi networks I was connected to because I knew my data was encrypted. But there are also uses that aren't exactly serious, but they are so handy. For example, I couldn't watch Disney Plus while I was in France, even though I subscribed to the service, because my subscription is a UK one. Well, turn on Surfshark, and as part of protecting my data, it was protecting my location, so I could just tell it, no, I'm in the UK, I could say, and I could immediately start catching up on Only Murders in the Building. Surfshark is in 100 countries. It has over 3,200 servers and it has 24/7 customer support. Plus, your Surfshark subscription comes without limits on how many devices you can use it with. Surfshark makes many services for protecting users, such as Surfshark Antivirus, but take a look first at its VPN, because right now you can get 4 extra months of Surfshark and have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Secure your privacy with Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/AppleInsider or use code AppleInsider at checkout. Surfshark.com/AppleInsider. And thank you to Surfshark for supporting the Apple Insider podcast. Well, I'll tell you what, just running the list here, you've mostly convinced me that I'm right to buy an iPad Pro. You totally have failed to get me to buy a PlayStation whatever with an Apple Vision Pro. Let's go 3 for 3 here. I currently run an M1 MacBook Pro, so M1 iPad Pro, M1 MacBook Pro. We've convincingly talked about the benefits of going to M5, and of course the other big device this week was the M5 MacBook Pro. Do the same rules apply? It's better, but...
Yeah, so this is what's funny is, especially for you, you would probably benefit from having an M5 MacBook, but also at the same time, you don't... I think is yours the M1 Pro MacBook Pro, is it not?
Oh, good point. Actually, I'm going to try, but I might even have gone for M1 Max. Yes, I did. M1 Max, unbelievable considering how much it cost that I'd forgotten that. Yes, so...
But you're not you're not using that M1 Max to its extent. I would say that you would, single core wise and the actual processing and things that you're doing, you would see substantial improvements moving to an M5. Do you need to? No, I'm sure you're fine. It is getting long in the tooth, but if you had to choose today between an M5 iPad Pro and an M5 MacBook Pro, I would go iPad Pro because it's the better machine, and wait in the near future for the M5 Pro, M5 Max, or perhaps wait one more year, depending on your budget, and get the M6 Pro, M6 Max. But yeah, in your use case, I know I'm biased coming from the iPad, but I don't know, unless you're seeing problems with your MacBook, which I don't know if you are, you're probably going to get a better experience difference from upgrading the iPad, just from the display and everything alone. And you're going from a 14-inch MacBook Pro to this lesser MacBook Pro. I'm not sure that you would want to do that. I think you would want to go at least from the M1 Max to the M6 Pro, maybe a little bit more of a lateral step in that way. But
right. In the middle there, I thought you were dissing the Mac, and then we would have had words. But I get the logic now. That makes sense. I will revisit this decision in a year's time, I think, when I've got over the pain.
Yeah, the MacBook literally is just the M5, similar to the iPad Pro. There's not much to say here. It's a new processor. It's better in certain ways, better for AI especially. We'll have more time to talk about that next time, but I think we have a couple of pickup topics here before we wrap up.
In fact, actually, if most of these devices have just kind of added something, there is, of course, news which we've already alluded to this week that something has been taken away. In fact, a couple of things have been taken away. The Plus in Apple TV Plus is gone. And I've got to say, I wrote a really quite harshly sarcastic article about it, because that means there's the Apple TV service, the Apple TV app, Apple TV, now called 4K, who knows what happens next, Apple TV channels, it went on and on and on, and I felt that this was enough already. But Eddie Q, Senior Vice President of something services at Apple, says that everybody just kept calling it Apple TV, and actually he's right. I do a regular spot on BBC Radio where I will recommend TV shows, and they will occasionally ask me about a show on Apple TV. They never say the Plus, and I automatically do, and it's just, I see what they're doing with it. And he also said that Plus indicates a paid-for version of an otherwise free service. So Apple News has Apple News Plus, iCloud has iCloud Plus. There was no Apple TV, just the Plus thing. So, okay, I
found his logic there a little funny, though, because iCloud Plus came out 2 years after Apple TV Plus, so it's not that one begat the other. And Apple Music is a paid subscription with no free tier. It's not a Plus. True. Right, and Apple Arcade is a paid subscription and doesn't have a free tier.
Apple Arcade games. Okay. Sorry, that was unnecessary.
Yeah. I do think Apple has some leeway here, though. Maybe they are gearing up for a change in their services, which I invite. Do something, differentiate. Of you have Apple TV, and then you have Apple TV Plus. Maybe Apple Arcade Plus. I was thinking about this the other day. I think maybe they should call it Apple Games, right? You have Apple Games and the Apple Games app where you subscribe to Apple Games, and then you get Apple Games Plus, right? Maybe Apple Arcade is a good name. It's alliterative, but Fitness Plus, there's no free fitness unless you count workouts as a free version of fitness. It's like you can start a run workout, but there's no one there to do it with you. I don't know. So
Eddie, I believed you, and look what you've done to you. Mess with my head. Thank you for sorting that out. I'll never listen to him again, frankly.
I don't think there's really much of a naming scheme here. I would like to see more here in this space. Maybe they are gearing up for some changes. As we record, no new hardware was released, so people were thinking, maybe they're changing the name of the set-top box, or maybe they're changing some other services or something. But overall, I want to say I don't care. Names are stupid. I didn't care if it was HBO Max, or Max BO. I don't care.
Actually, I got to say I did. When they dropped the name HBO for a while, I thought you're throwing away a legacy there.
Marketing, yes. Like, it was stupid. And marketing is important. But he was right. Like, even in my own life, people who don't know what they're talking about say it's Apple TV.
Yeah.
It's not that it's confusing. There's I would want to say a different word, maybe convoluted. But if someone says you can watch this on Apple TV, does that mean Apple TV, the subscription, or Apple TV, the app? Because Apple TV, the app, does not only have content from Apple TV. You can buy things on I finally landed on a name, and it's obvious, the Apple TV Store, right? It's not iTunes. It's the Apple TV Store. So you can buy things on the Apple TV Store, right? Movies and TV shows.
Yes.
You can go to Apple TV channels and watch, I believe Paramount Plus is like the only one that's left that isn't some B-tier service, and watch Paramount Plus inside of the Apple TV app. So if someone says you can watch this on Apple TV, I guess 9 times out of 10, they're probably referring to the streaming service, but that's not necessarily true. And I wonder, does Apple want to blur those lines? Okay, so I want to recommend everyone go listen to this podcast Eddie Q did on The Town. It was amusing because the podcast host kept pressing Eddie Q, and in a joking way. He wasn't, making him angry, but he kept asking him questions about subscriber numbers and Apple's future plans. Eddie Q did give away something, which I don't think was a secret, but he was like, are you guys going to keep releasing movies in theaters? And Eddie Q's like, yeah, 26, 27, 28, 29, we're going to do this forever. And he was like, well, what happens, you guys are all going to retire in the next decade. What happens when you're all gone? Is Apple going to still be interested in media? And he's like, yes, we're not in it. This isn't simply a gimmick to get people to buy Apple products. We want to make art. This is an artistic division of Apple. It's not about the return on investment. It's not about, winning awards, though we do like winning awards. It's about making good art, and we're letting people do that, and we're very excited about that. So I really enjoyed that, so I recommend everyone go listen to that. And he did give us a hint on subscriber numbers. He says it's because the host asked, is it this? There's a rumor of about 45 million, which is an astronomical number by all measures, because everyone thinks Apple TV is a dead service. And Q said, I won't give you a number, but it is much, much higher than 45 million. Which,
okay,
yes.
Yeah.
So, and if we look at streaming numbers, Netflix is around 300 million. HBO and Disney Plus are around 150 million. That means Apple TV is just under HBO and Disney Plus in subscriber numbers, and they're doing better than Paramount Plus, which is actually kind of an incredible thing to say.
Okay, a couple less things we need to rush through. One of them, I think we should just give it the attention it deserves. Apple Clips, the social video app. Apparently it's 8 years since I thought I should give that a go sometime. Never have, and now I never can. It is gone. Do you miss it? Did you ever use it? Do you remember what it was?
It's not for me. I don't make social media video content. I've definitely aspired to the idea of I wonder if I should do customization tutorials for iPhone and post it to a web service. I don't know. Yeah. But no, it was a good app, a well-built app. Its biggest failure for me was it didn't connect to anything. TikTok has ClipCut, which lets you post directly to TikTok. Meta copied ClipCut and with an app called Edits and lets you post to Instagram stories. Apple has Clips and lets you post to iMessage, right? That's the missing link here. And yeah, you can share it to TikTok or whatever, but people like that vertical integration, and I will still argue every day until it happens that Apple should have some toe in a responsible social media, even if it's a micro social media network. But anyway, not enough time for that today. But yes, Clips is gone. It was a video editor. It was fine. iMovie is more robust, even if it's more convoluted. And there are better third-party app editors that just do simple filtering and trimming that probably will cost you money in your privacy, but there you go.
Two more things that I think are really just worth the headline. Steve Jobs is going to be featured on an American Innovation $1 gold coin in 2026. I didn't know there was a $1 coin in the States, but there you go. And
that's the whole thing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll say real quick. It's been a thing since the Mint right was established. They do these commemorative coins. Coin collectors are crazy about. I remember when I was a child, the big deal was like there was a Sacagawea $1 gold coin that everyone wanted. And fast forward to today, and there's this whole line of American innovators, and Steve Jobs happens to represent California. That's the whole story.
I see.
The $1 gold coin costs about $2. So,
okay, of course it does. For some reason, I'm just reminded of the way The Onion ran an article once about United States Postal Service doing a special series of stamps commemorating all 7 people who still use stamps on the USPTO. But
so you guys don't get to have commemorative coins because you're required to use the royalty or something, right?
We do.
There's not an Elton John coin.
No, but there is. I think there was a King Charles or a royal wedding. Yeah, whatever, one of those. I'm an Apple Pay guy. I wouldn't have noticed. I think there's more to talk about this week. And actually, if you look in the show notes, there's a couple more pieces of mildly interesting stories. Well, I shouldn't undersell it like that. Devastatingly interesting stories. But actually, this is the point of the show when I need to say, Wes, you are about to get married. Are you changing your name? And do people need to know a different name to find you online?
No. Keeping my name and should be fine. Nothing should change on our end anyway. I'll just be gone for a week. Little hiatus from work, little hiatus from the blog. But yeah, I'm excited. It should go well. The weather looks nice this weekend. We're going on our honeymoon in Charleston, South Carolina for excellent. A few days. And then I'll be back to play with a Apple Vision Pro with M5 and a lot more Pokemon ZA, which came out last night, and I'm very excited about. So,
okay. When you're back and in between Pokemon games, how can people best reach you?
So I am Hilly Tech on Blue Sky, hilly.tech. I also have that blog I mentioned, same URL, funny enough. But yes, email, wes@appleinsider.com. I've got a few good emails this week. And you can always leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and we will read it here. And I think we have a little time today to get into that, but I'll go ahead and let you share where people can get a hold of you.
Well, I should say, out of interest, when I got married, my wife did take my name, but she didn't take my pronunciation of it, and I adore that. I mean, I actually was hoping she would keep her own name. I recommended that, but I loved that compromise. I thought it was so clever. I say Gallagher with a hard G. She pronounces it with a soft second G, which actually, shortly before she died, my mother told me was the correct way to say it. She'd been, all those years, I'd been saying it to her. But there we go. So let's drop the surname, william@appleinsider.com or 58 Keys on YouTube, where actually I mentioned in some of the ad reads earlier that you may or may not hear, depending on if you subscribe. I've just been in Paris for a while. The latest 58 Keys video is a little tour of Paris and how to do a writing retreat there, which I'm very proud of. But also, I'm really proud of the fact that we do get some excellent reviews on Apple Podcasts. Have we got brilliant ones today, or are there any that aren't brilliant?
Well, I'll say that there's no agreement on how to say Hilliard either. I've heard Hilliard, Hilliard, and yeah. So there, or Hillard. That's they usually cut out the second I, right? So we do have a couple of reviews here. So I really like these because one we were going to do last week, we just ran out of time. But I'm glad we saved them because these are perfect juxtaposition next to each other. So the review from last week that I didn't read is from Mordecai, spelled, I really like this spelling, but it is top Apple podcast 5 stars. This is probably the top Apple product podcast being produced. There's a lot of P's there. I enjoy the banter between the hosts. I appreciate this is apolitical. Even though they talk about being active on Blue Sky, they don't talk politics. They stick to Apple products and how they impact our lives. Also like that you include time markers. Yeah, I appreciate the review. Funny enough, you left that right before we did our controversy corner last week, so that's fun. But you did not update your review, so maybe you're appreciating our segment. But another reader did not so much. Ramirez 6131, half tech, half left wing propaganda. 3 stars, though, so they're enjoying the show at least. Less political opinions and more tech would be welcome. Great talk, but me tries his hardest to inject left-wing political talk. If his opinion was more balanced, I could understand. His mixed Apple with anti-Trump. This has become a staple of the podcast. Well, okay, I mean, maybe you listened to that one episode, but I will counter with Controversy Corner went away for, what, a month and a half? Because we had nothing to talk about of value, and then we had one 15-minute segment in a 2-hour episode. So I don't think half is the correct word, and we do try to segment it, and we do keep the rest of the discussions apolitical as the other person shared. So remember, if you see Controversy Corner in the future, skip it and you won't have to hear it. We're not going to stop talking about it because it's important, and it's not propaganda, it's just reality. Sorry that you feel that way. But finally, one last little bit, and we don't have to spend long on this. I just want to point it out. Someone emailed me talking about AI because I am very dismissive of what these other companies are doing. Again, to reiterate, I personally think artificial intelligence is a bad name for a relatively good technology that will endure. It's going to be in everything for a good reason, because it is useful when it is used properly in the right places responsibly. But humanity is terrible and uses it irresponsibly, of course. That's just kind of where we ended up. So yeah, I come down hard on some companies and their blatant, I want to say, lies about what AI can and will do, and the grift that has been going on that basically created this economic bubble that will soon ruin our economy. But someone wrote an email telling me to watch this video about AI and Anthropic and how serious it all really is. And there's this really dramatic YouTuber talking about how an AI planned a murder or something. I watched the whole video, and I will say that while this research was probably conducted and the results were probably shared, this YouTuber does a really good job of making it sound like a murder mystery that actually happened. It's just not true. It's very dramatic, and it leans back into what I discussed before about we need to be able to talk about this stuff realistically and have actual grounded conversations about what this technology is and can ultimately do. And this YouTuber mentioned the godfather of AI multiple times and clipped out things that he said out of context. And they do sound dire and terrible about how AI is going to become so smart that it'll start programming itself and create an army that will kill all humanity. But if you actually listen to what the man has to say, it is what I've said before is what we have today that we call AI is not going to be the problem. It's what comes next. It's the technology that begets the technology. Theoretically, we will ultimately build something that will be endemic for humanity, using technology that will allow computers to teach and learn. We're not there yet. That is the sci-fi worry, right? And the godfather of AI says that these are the foundations of that, but he's the godfather of AI because he invented a technology in 1978 that ultimately led to what we consider computer learning. That is what led to what we have today. And that's the reason why he's the godfather of AI. And he's a very intelligent man. And I do want to say, if you want to hear him actually speak on this subject, ironically, maybe not ironically, I never use that word correctly, but he was on the, as you sent this email not last week, tonight, that's John Oliver, the Weekly Show podcast, there we go, with Jon Stewart. I have the episode in the show notes. I recommend everyone go listen to that. Don't go watch this. We're not even going to link to that YouTube video. It was nonsense. Go listen to this episode, and he does a really good job of not only explaining how these computers are actually thinking, how they're similar to the human brain and how they're not, and why we should be worried. And it's a good episode. And I still think he is a little bit hysterical in some of his points, but he has to be because, I mean, it's what keeps him it's what keeps him relevant in these conversations, sadly. But I think he does make a good evaluation of this is what AI is and why we should be concerned. And I think it's smart. But here's the TLDR. there's nothing to really worry about. This stuff can't learn or think or reason, especially not in the way that we can. It may eventually, but that's not today, and we're nowhere near that. AGI is just a myth invented by capitalists wanting to make more money on the stock market. But anyway, William.
But for the opposite of TLDR, we will link to that podcast in the show notes. And you're right, we won't link to that video, but I mean, I'm sure, everybody can Google just as well as I do. So if you search for Godfather of AI, Anthropic, murder, and maybe the word, you'll come across it, I think. And let's find out in the edit whether I'm allowed to say any of those words there. That will come later. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening to this. Remember, please, there is AppleInsider Plus in just one moment. So before that, I'd like to say thank you to Wes for clearing up whether or not I'm going to wait till next time when you're back before I tell you if I did push the button. Frankly, it's going to be yes, but let's try to build some suspense here. And in the meantime, thank you to our sponsors, Private Internet Access, Clean My Mac by MacBook, and Surfshark. Wes and I will not be back next week. I'll be back next week with a mysterious guest. Code for we haven't picked the person yet, but we will.
AI.
And that would do it. Mr. Hilliard will be back fully married the week after. But for now, talk to you later.
Yep, see y'all then.